Let me finish. They entered extremely poor, made good decisions, created communities, and they went to college in record numbers, and now Asian Americans are the richest subracial group in the country. The Constitution was not written in Korean. The point being is this country can be successful no matter what race, color, religion, or language you speak. Even more than that. If you're trying to say that, oh, well, you know, it's different because there's institutional racism against black people. There is a lot and continues to be institutional racism against Asian Americans, but they overcame it. And in fact, if you talk to someone who fought in World War II, ask them what they used to call an Asian American person. We actually, if I remember correctly, we unconstitutionally put Asian Americans in internment camps in the 1940s. We treated them horribly. And instead of giving them government benefits, we empowered them. And now they are the richest subracial group in the country because they overcame the victimhood mentality that you are pushing.
Hey my love, so you're welcome back to my channel. It's your girl BB Fruits, and I'm back again for another reaction video. So I bring to you Charlie Kirk. The title of this one is Charlie Kirk Destroys SJW Students. I repeat, Charlie Kirk destroys SJW students. This is gonna be a heated one. It's gonna be a banger, right? So if you haven't subscribed, do want to hit the subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get right into this video.
I don't think Charlie's teachers liked him very much. Do you guys?
The feeling was mutual.
Yeah. So this is interesting, right? This is something that I want to explore further, right? So this is again an example of how Charlie and I are so impossibly different and have had such different reactions to almost every single thing that's happened since 2008. Right? So to get to your question, no, the Department of Education shouldn't be abolished. That's a ridiculous talking point. Should it be streamlined? Can things be more efficient? Always. But so I want to take us back to 2010. When Governor Scott Walker was first elected, right? And you were writing op-eds in your high school paper, right? About how great he was for busting up teachers' unions, right? Your teachers were going to Madison, Wisconsin, right? Where I'm from, right? They were busting themselves up to show solidarity with their other teachers, right? And Charlie didn't have the human capacity to wonder why, right? Why did they need to stand in solidarity with folks where it gets hot here, it gets real cold in Wisconsin, I'll tell you that right now. They were out there in the freezing cold, just asking for very simple things, right? Very, very simple things. Can we collectively bargain for our pay? Can we collectively bargain for our health care? Can we go and sit down as equals with the folks that employ us, just to have a conversation about what it's like and what we need to get by, because teachers are serving the public. Right? It's a public service job where they get up every day. It is thankless. I don't care when folks say they don't work in the summer. I know that they do. It is a ridiculous talking point to say otherwise. We know that we have to value these folks, right? So the Department of Education does something very interesting, right? And I want to hear what your solution for this would be, because I don't know what it would be. So the Department of Education is responsible for making sure that vulnerable children in school districts are protected. Kids with disabilities. Right? They make sure that kids who are LGBTQ are valued. They make sure that transgender people, who Charlie does not even acknowledge their existence,
Wrong. Okay. Value their existence. How dare you say something like that? Like, seriously, value their existence? Yeah, you should sit down. I mean, seriously.
So let's talk about it.
Value their existence.
Wait.
Seriously.
Wait.
Value their existence.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Okay. Do you acknowledge there's more than one gender?
There's two genders. Yes, there's more than one gender.
Do you acknowledge that Would you acknowledge that transgender kids need special protections in school?
Absolutely, yes. That could be done on a local basis. It doesn't take a federal bureaucracy to look after LGBT students.
There's two issues that I have right now. And I know that it's still about the Department of Education because they are the ones that enforce this regulation. So what I think is interesting, right, is that if you turn this over to local control, right, so then the kid in Scottsdale might be protected and the kid in South Phoenix might not. Right? We know that this creates a patchwork of protections where we can't even define what it means to be American, because one American, 10 miles apart, right? And I'm shocked that you're offended, because you would hit us all for being offended in trade.
Actually, I'm not offended. I'm laughing.
Okay. But so what I think you're missing, right, is that when you say that, and again, I misspoke, right? But when you say that transgender folks can't, identify that way, right? Or that there's not more than one gender, right? You're not valuing their existence.
No, actually
right?
I am. I'm saying
So
there's two genders, and this idea that there's 47 genders and counting is wrong. It's non-biological, it's anti-science, and it's harmful
of all
to
people to be
society.
anti-science.
Yeah. It is anti-science. Just because Brown University says there's 47 genders and pick one doesn't mean it necessarily is true. They used to call this gender dysphoria. There's two genders. Now, who might be born as a man, choose to be a woman? Yes. There's two genders. Pick one. I value their existence. How dare you say something like that? Okay, back to what I was saying. So you were a lot there. So Department of Education.
Can you stop talking over her?
No.
Can you let her do her job, please? She put a lot of time into this.
All of the Department of Education is what we want to hit.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So do you have something to add about the role of the Department of Education?
Can you?
To abolish it.
Well, I'm curious. Can you name a specific inefficiency or program specifically from the Department of Ed that is inefficient?
Pell Grants.
Okay, tell me more about
FAFSA. The waste within Title IX funding. The waste within every single inner city grant that I've ever come across. The $160 billion that they indiscriminately send throughout the country that has net no impact on test scores or urban poverty levels or literacy rates. So the entire thing is a waste. And it could be better done on a local. So you said, hold on, you said a great point. You said, what about the students that are discriminated against in South Phoenix? Well, that's why we have a court system. You don't need a federal bureaucracy to adjudicate that. You can sue, go through the circuit court system, and go up to the Supreme Court. You don't need a federal government bureaucracy to go after every sort of injustice. That's why we have a Supreme Court. I believe in the courts. You don't need a federal bureaucracy to go after that.
Do you think that the mom in South Phoenix... Yes, I tell you what he said. Do you think that the mom in South Phoenix, right, who works 3 jobs, right, is up late trying to take care of her kids, right, and then her kid is discriminated against in school, right, and a lawyer costs X amount of money, right, and public defenders are overworked, they're not at the level that they need to be to take on a school district or the state if it got to that level, or to go all the way to the Supreme Court, right? So then this becomes, again, the idea of privilege, right? You assume that everything works for everyone. We're going to have to talk about
privilege. I'm sorry, this is getting out of control. Okay, seriously.
30 seconds and then you can go on.
Yeah,
go on.
Sure.
Right? So this is the idea that, right, you assume that everything will automatically work for you. Right? You wake up every day and every system works for you without having to worry about whether or not you can access it in the first place. If you are a person of color and your child is being discriminated against in South Phoenix, you do not have access to the courts. Right?
What about the ACLU? Don't they represent a lot of students that are...
Absolutely.
Oh, so they do
represent everyone. So they represent everyone.
It's
It's not for everyone, right? These folks do not
All
have...
it takes is one court decision and then they can't do it again or else they go to jail.
Do you think that that's how the justice system works in this country?
That actually is how it works. That's how the Little Rock Nine worked. That's how integration in the South works. That's how desegregation works. That's how the Civil Rights Act works.
You don't get to talk about that.
Actually, I do get to talk about that.
You don't get to claim these great civil rights wins as part of your legacy.
It was actually the Republican Party that had all those great civil rights wins.
And that's another lie. You know, my mom's watching at home, right? And she taught me not to lie, so I won't do it, right? And hi, Mom, I love you.
Was Strom Thurmond a Democrat or a Republican?
But so here's the issue, and I'm not going to get into this now, is the idea that he can take credit for all of these things and then twist them historically to serve the talking points of the people that already have bought into Turning Point. You're not going to get new people when you take credit for what the black community did or what the Latino community did or what the LGBT community does every single day. You don't get to do that. And before you start talking again, you have to understand that this is an identity issue. And you never get to talk about this.
Let's stop. Stop with the identity.
You don't get to talk about this like that.
I'm going to keep talking. If you want to interrupt me, you can. I'm just going to keep talking.
You've done it every second that I've talked into the microphone.
Can I respond?
Yes, a response,
Okay.
and then we'll move on. Got it?
Privilege. What a bunch of nonsense. If you want to be, seriously, I mean, privilege. Everyone has some element of privilege. Some people are smarter.
I have privilege.
Let me finish. Okay, I let you do your piece. Privilege. Okay? Privilege. If you want to succeed in this country, you do 3 simple things. America is still a meritocracy. You graduate from high school, you get a job, and you get married before you have kids. No matter your skin color, no matter where you come from. Are some people born with less? Yes, absolutely. Do we need increased opportunity? Yes, absolutely. And every policy I advocate for is increasing opportunity. Not perpetuating victimhood. Not trying to say, you're privileged because you're a certain color and you're a certain gender. Or you're privileged because you come from a certain part of the country. Instead, talk about the policies, the data, the math. You know what doesn't have privilege? Mathematics. You have not refuted a singular data point that I have brought up tonight.
So let's do
not
this.
one.
So let's do this.
Is math all of a sudden privileged now?
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I
We're done.
interrupted you.
Thank you.
So can I ask about a specific policy that you would advocate for?
Please.
Right. So white people in this country, their average net worth in this country is $171,000.
Asians are actually $192,000, so where's your Asian privilege? Indian Americans are $188,000. Where's your Indian American privilege? There are twice as many white people living in poverty than black people. Where's your outrage for all the poor white people in West Virginia and Appalachia that were left behind from the disastrous anti-coal policies that your wonderful President Barack Obama passed and left entire regions of this country without work, without self-worth, without the capacity or ability to earn money?
Randy, do you want to respond to that?
He asked me a question.
But I didn't get to finish it. That's part of it. So when you ask a question, something at the end is asking you to respond.
Go
and
ahead.
Skip that.
I'll keep my...
So, okay, so if white folks in this country have $171,000 of average net worth in this country, right? And the average black net worth in this country is about $17,000, and the average Latino net worth in this country is about $20,000. Can you explain to me how you would create a more equitable economic system that actually tries to, and you tried to claim equity earlier in the policies that you're talking about, but equity would be if we took money that we know is already there, right? We know that it's offshore, we know that folks aren't paying their taxes, we know that corporations like GE are paying close to 0% in taxes every single year, and we know that if we created this economic platform that rewarded you, right, and not the wealthy few and not the privileged few, then we know that there would actually be more growth, more economic opportunity for everyone, right? Charlie's vision of economic opportunity serves very
Asian
few
Americans, white
people.
Americans, African Americans, Indian Americans, and all Americans. Yes, all Americans will benefit.
I would love to talk to some folks about whether they think that Charlie's message of economic freedom actually includes them, because I know
You
for
know
a
what?
fact that it
Actually,
doesn't.
see a lot of people of color here. People of color,
Black.
person of color, 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 person of color. It's interesting. Talk to them. They'll have some interesting sound bites. Also, you should come to our Young Latino Leadership Summit, which is the nation's largest young Latino leadership summit for young, freedom-loving conservatives, all of which are bilingual, first-generation young Latinos that are all conservative. So there's a lot of words. Go ahead. Sorry, I want to.
Yeah, no. So I think we've actually exhausted that concept.
I'm having a great time. I don't know about everyone here.
Is everyone enjoying themselves?
We are actually going to open the floor to questions.
Let's do it.
So I
great.
guess if you want to ask these guys a question, just raise your hand and I can pick on you. Yeah, you. And then we'll hand a mic to you too, so we can hear your question.
Okay, I'm a senior here at ASU, studying history. I just want to ask Randy about the fact with Maricopa Community Colleges.
Yes.
Since the state 2 years ago took funding out of its budget, and you're saying that since that tuition has risen. Can you
I said it will rise, just to be specific. Okay. I don't know about the specifics of the community colleges.
Well, the former vice chancellor of the of services said in an interview with KTAR when the initial budget went through the legislature, said that only 1% of state funding actually is the revenue for the entire Maricopa Community College's budget. This main budget is from property taxes and tuition. And tuition is mainly from property taxes. The only thing that actually does affect is any future initiatives that the colleges actually do, which as a employee for the Maricopa Community Colleges, we're still growing, we're still serving many different demographics of students, and so I just wanted to get where the facts are coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that you made an interesting point, right, about property taxes funding schools, right? So you work for the system, you said, right, Ken? You work for Maricopa County Community Colleges? Which is a nicer school, Scottsdale Community College or South Mountain Community College?
They're all nice.
Which one would you rather go to?
Visit all of them. Personally, I live near Mesa Community College, but I visited all of them. I used to work for the Student Loan Support Services team, which I agree with Charlie, if we didn't have a Department of Education, it would be a lot easier to do my job. But all the schools are nice and are still thriving with them.
I hope that they serve all their students really well. I think that's important. I'm sure that you do a great job. But I want to talk about the way that those schools are funded, right? When you look at the way that you would fund property taxes, whose home values are higher? Is it when we go down to Broadway and Central and those property tax set to fund Roosevelt schools and then South Mountain Community College? Is it houses in Scottsdale that have incredibly high property values and then thus they pay more in taxes, but that goes straight to their school, right? So you have to think about who is being served by this, right? So you know that it's an inequitable education, right? Because if you went to South Mountain Community College, and I'll try to wrap it up, I know I'm taking a long time, but if you tried to look at it in creating equity, this is not happening within the community college system right now because of the funding sources. And the same for K through 12.
Can I comment? Yeah. So first of all, the goal of creating absolute equity is both impossible and immoral. You should never have absolute equity in wealth or equity of talent. So you keep mentioning that. I will say it's both impossible and immoral. But secondly, you actually just made a great argument for school choice, that students that grow up with worse property values should be able to go to a school that has higher property values. So they're able to take their money and go to a better school if they're within a failing school, which is exactly a good argument for school choice, which is everything that we advocate for, which would actually pursue more towards equity, which is everything that you believe in.
So school choice is a lie, right?
It's a success story that has lifted millions of people out of poverty, including many of whom that I know.
So like I said, I read your book, right? I didn't super enjoy it, as you can imagine, but I read the book. And he created, and so I want to talk about Julio, right? Because you brought up Latinos earlier. Right?
Yes, just so everyone knows, Julio is a fictitious character that I created in the book of what a free society can create for an at-risk Latino immigrant in the country through a free society, lift out of poverty into success. Just so everyone knows.
So to be more frank, Charlie created a fake Mexican to prove his point.
Wow. Okay.
And I didn't like that. So
if I would have called him Jake, it would have made it less true?
It would have made it more real coming from you, right? And
really? Or how about if his name was Jovan? I seriously, like, what are you trying to get at here?
So I want to go back to
why is it always race with you? Seriously, what's with your leftist and race? It's like if you created a fake Mexican. Well, actually, he might have been from Nicaragua, or he might have been like. So seriously, like, what are you trying to say with all this race stuff?
Well, I want to get back to the answer about school choice.
I'm genuinely curious.
So
I haven't mentioned race once, but you keep on mentioning it.
Really like to take 2 more questions.
Can I just quickly talk about school choice? Can someone ask me about school choice? I don't bite.
This question I have for Charlie.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. When you say that Republican states have thriving economies and you use this as your evidence for low taxes working, yet 84% of the states that receive more federal, or 84% of the states that receive more federal money than they pay for are Republican. And this includes things like WIC, TAMP, food stamps.
So you're talking about like Alabama and Mississippi.
Well, 84% of the states are Republican that receive more than they pay in. So here's my question. When Republican states receive the lion's share of government benefits, which are paid for by taxes, how are you able to attribute economic success in these states to free markets and to limited government?
It's a beautiful question.
It's actually very easily proven. So you're talking about this wonderful Democrat fantasy that somehow Republican states are mooching at the trough of others. First and foremost, you're talking mainly about 6 states, which are most in the South, which are some of the poorest states in the country: Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Arkansas. And they're not poor because they're Republican. They're poor for many different sorts of reasons. But you're asking, so 84% of all tax dollars are to where exactly? To the poorest states?
84% of the states in which they receive more federal money than they pay in.
Yes.
Go to Republican states.
Go to poor states that happen to also be Republican, and they're getting richer thanks to economically free policies and right-to-work policies and pro-growth policies, and they're seeing a net increase in taxpayers, a net increase in businesses, a net increase in people that are actually paying into the government services. Tennessee, for example, is an unbelievable economic success story where they see businesses moving to Tennessee. That was one of those previous states like that. Kentucky's another state. It's a fake Democratic talking point. And another thing, so you look at some of the wealthiest cities in the country, they also happen to be in Democratic states. They're also some of the worst run cities. You look at the most poor centralized areas in America that receive federal funding without the state argument. You look at Philadelphia, you look at Oakland, you look at Chicago, you look at
it's a really good pivot.
All the good, well, actually cities and states pivot, they're actually quite interrelated. So the poorest cities, why are all the poorest cities in America happen to always be run by Democrats? The highest crime with the highest joblessness And the most screwed up states all happen to be run Democrats. I don't remember a Republican mayor of Philadelphia or Oakland or Chicago or Milwaukee or Detroit or all the cities that happen to be screwed up are all run by Democrats. So to answer your question, the states that are most economically free are flourishing at the highest rate. They have a net increase of citizens. They see businesses per capita raising dramatically, business startups rising, and blue states are bleeding taxpayers and bleeding citizens.
But so you just contradicted yourself, right? But
No, I actually did.
Let me try to answer your question.
did.
Right? The reason for that is because, as you said yourself, those are some of the poorest states, right? Despite all the freedom in the world and all these free markets that have been created by Republican governors and Republican legislatures.
Well, Alabama just recently become red in the last 18 years.
It seems as if these folks just still aren't doing that great. And I wonder if it's because those states do not have the tax revenue to support a public education system that serves their students. I wonder if it's because they can't afford to pay good teachers to serve their kids so that they can go out and create the economic boom that we're all desperately looking for. Right? We all want that. Right? But when you ask that question, right, and there's also a healthcare component to it, right, where we know that in a lot of those states, they have incredibly poor health outcomes, right, and so they have to lean on federal government to just take care of their citizens. Those states that he mentioned aren't even doing their basic job of taking care of the people that pay their taxes or elect them or live there, right? So that's the reason that they're getting the federal funding, to answer your question.
All right. One more question, yeah? All the way over there. You.
That was a really bad choice. That was not a good choice. You won't like it either.
Hey guys.
Oh, really?
I'm Shay. I'm a senior here. I have questions for both of you.
Shay, I've never met you before. This is crazy.
I know, right? Randy, first, I'm going to start with you. You mentioned that monopolies are against the American creed, which is very correct, and competition is necessary, which is also correct. But how do you defend the monopoly teachers union have created and how they kill the competition?
That's a great point.
Charlie, I have a question for you too. You cited Amazon as a monopoly, which is contributing a lot of good.
He did, and I actually said it's a great company that might be a monopoly.
So you're comfortable with it being a monopoly as long as it's going to.
Well, so the only part of their monopoly is Amazon Web Services, which owns 53% of the market share. Well, no, I'm actually correcting him. You're not up here. I am. Thank you very little. So go ahead.
Again, you suggested that it is, even if it's a monopoly, it is contributing good. And Milton Friedman, in his book Capitalism and Freedom, attacks monopolies. He blames the government that creates them, but he still attacks them and suggests that more free market and more free trade would fix the problem of monopolies, which are this latter, which is a policy that the current administration is against.
I mean, I'll take the monopoly, then you could take the teacher unions. So Milton Friedman did not say that. Milton Friedman said in all of his writings and all of his, he wrote in The Moral Case for Capitalism, he said that all monopolies are created by government, but if a monopoly is created out of free market forces, it usually does not do harm for the consumer, and he cited De Beers diamonds as one of those examples. So get your Milton Friedman right, because that's incorrect. Secondly, yes, Amazon...
Do y'all like how he talks to you? Do you feel as if he's respecting your questions and your time and your value?
You just interrupted me. You want to talk about respect? It's like you interrupted me.
Okay, Charlie, answer the question.
Okay, question. Amazon, good, lowers prices, employs a lot of people, creates a lot of value for shareholders. If you want to count it as a monopoly, they have cut prices and made products and life better for a lot of people. And your teacher unions.
Yes, so I want to hit what you said first, and then I'll go to the teachers union, Pete, I promise. But so this is the inherent fallacy of Turning Point's entire ideology, right? To say that they advocate for free markets when you have your founder on stage defending monopolies that then destroy competition, which is inherent of a free market. But how can you say that you want folks... Wait, hold on. So what if the next great Amazon idea is in this room? Right? What if it's in this room? Right? But Amazon has such a monopoly on the market that you will never be able to get it created. And then they're not going to pay any taxes to fund your school, so then your kids aren't even going to be educated to actually go out and make the change that you so desperately want. You can't be talking about wanting to start a new business if you aren't out there advocating for our people.
Again, Amazon's not a monopoly. You brought it up. So tell me what they have a monopoly over.
So I want to go back to Shay's question because I actually respect the folks
you can't answer the question because you don't understand the company. Tell me what they have a monopoly over.
I don't get my shareholders report every week like you do.
Well, then why would you use it as an example?
I want to answer Shay's question.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad I use the capitalist system to make myself rich and other people better.
So I want to go back to the Amazon piece. Can I answer the initial question from the participant? Is that okay with you? Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. So going back to the issue about teachers' unions, right? I think we would both acknowledge that today unions are weaker than they've ever been.
Yay.
Right? And that's a problem. Right? And I do have problems when, go back to your hood. Now we're in your hood, right? In Chicago. We do have a problem where the bad teachers have been protected. Right? But at the same time, we know that not all teachers are being empowered to actually do their jobs in the first place. How can you ask a teacher in this state that's a member of the Arizona Education Association, right, to go out and teach? To go out and teach when their school isn't funded, their buildings are falling apart. Right? We know that they have you might say they have a monopoly on it. I think that we should have unionized workers going to school districts, going to the state, saying that you have to value us. Right? It's the teachers that make the education happen. I wouldn't be here without some great teachers, and I still remember them. And I remember them in the snow when you were attacking them. I remember listening to their stories about their pay. I remember listening to their stories about how they weren't sure that they would be able to afford to send their kids. And these are teachers. They're like, I don't know if I can stay in this district. I don't know if I can keep teaching you. And for a student, it's so hard to lose a teacher like that.
So how many teachers lost their job because of Scott Walker?
I don't have the immediate answer.
Answer the question. How many teachers lost their job because of Scott Walker?
I know that teachers quit.
Zero. Zero teachers were fired.
We can't cite that as a fact right now.
Zero teachers were fired because of the reforms he put past.
But were they able to actually bargain with their...
Yes, that's another lie. He did not get rid of the ability to collectively bargain.
Did you read Act 10? Because I was there.
Yeah, and he was reelected in the recall with more votes than he did.
That doesn't answer the question. That's electoral success. That's not about Act 10. Right?
No, yeah, Act 10.
Do you want to talk about Act 10? Because Act 10 is a travesty.
I don't know if we actually have time for that.
It's 7:38. We're supposed to have it till 8.
We are going to wrap up around 7:45. So I think you two should do your closing.
Okay.
Well, I think we
can go another 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes. Yeah, one more question.
Do you mind if we do one more question? It's up to you. You're the moderator.
Yeah, sure. One more question? How about over there? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I had a question for Randy. So
what's up, man?
When you talk about privilege and stuff, you cited the net worth of white people, but Asians have a higher net worth, but you didn't include that in your talking point. May I ask why?
Yeah, absolutely, right?
Because you're only concerned with white people.
Because I mean, by your definition of white privilege, Asians have more privilege, so I don't really get it. It just sounds like race baiting.
So, woo! So I appreciate your question, and I thank you for coming. I value your time. What I would say is that Asian Americans do have privilege, right? I had privilege as a Latino, right? I had privilege where I grew up in Wisconsin, right? Privilege is not relegated just to white folks, right? That's not how privilege works. We know that privilege is how you interact with systems and how your experience is put together, right? So to answer your question, I'm not race baiting. Things are racial, right? There are racial outcomes that we have to deal with and put policies in place that actually acknowledge their reality. Right? So when you look at that, right, I think that Asian Americans, if that was their actual net worth, and I don't have that statistic, so I apologize, but if that is what is going on, then they are also part of the solution, right? Wouldn't you say, can I ask him a question back? Wouldn't you say that we'd all be better off if people of color in this country felt two things? They felt valued by their community, and they felt as if they had economic opportunity in their community as well. Would you feel that way? How would you answer that?
I mean, I think a lot of them do, given the objective fact that Asians or people of color may do better than white people by every measure of economic success.
Oh my God, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly right. Asian Americans entered mostly in the 1940s and 50s, fleeing communism. They were the poorest ethnic group, poorer than African Americans when they entered in the flurry of refugees from Mao communism. Let me finish. They entered extremely poor, made good decisions, created communities, and they went to college in record numbers, and now Asian Americans are the richest subracial group in the country. The Constitution was not written in Korean. The point being is this country can be successful no matter what race, color, religion, or language you speak. Even more than that. If you're trying to say that, oh, well, you know, it's different because there's institutional racism against black people. There is a lot and continues to be institutional racism against Asian Americans, but they overcame it.
Thank you.
And in fact, if you talk to someone who fought in World War II, ask them what they used to call an Asian American person. We actually, if I remember correctly, we unconstitutionally put Asian Americans in internment camps in the 1940s. We treated them horribly. And instead of giving them government benefits, we empowered them. And now they are the richest sub-racial group in the country because they overcame the victimhood mentality that you are pushing.
So can you just outright say for me, please? Can you outright say for me that you think black people think they're victims and so do Hispanics?
I think that you are putting forth a victimhood mentality. I think the left is trying to turn women into victims. They're trying to turn black people into victims. They're trying to turn Latino into victims. They're trying to turn transgender people into victims. They're trying to turn Muslims into victims. When in reality, America has been the greatest country in the history of the world because we've always risen above victimhood culture. Because we've empowered the individual to rise above that. I think it's the left's doing, absolutely.
I have absolutely nothing to say in response to that.
It's pretty obvious that this guy is a left wing. He's actually a left wing person. These are people who believe in the LGBTQ community. When we talk about the LGBTQ community, these are people that believe in lesbianism, people that believe in gay, people that believe in the multiple genders, transgenderism, and the rest of it. So it's pretty obvious, you know, when you say people like this, you know they belong to the left wing and they're always trying to act the victim game. He was just blabbing around, moving around. I was still trying to fathom some of the points he said, but he made no point. He made no point. He was just beating around the bush. He was just moving everywhere. He wasn't really stable. He wasn't organized. I wasn't able to pinpoint anything he said because he was just blabbing, and all that he wanted was just to win the conversation. He was just, he want to win the conversation. That was just everything he displayed there was just blabbing. There was no point. He just want to win the conversation, and then trying to act the victim game. Now there's something that shocked me. He said that we have over 400 genders, and I'm like, oh no, this one really got me. For someone to come up on stage and say, that we have over 400 gender. And I'm like, where is this narrative coming from? What has actually eaten into the fabric of people's mentality? Let me put it that way, because most time when you hear people converse, when you hear them communicate, when you have a conversation with them, you know, when you listen to the mindset of people and their perception, their way of reasoning, you question yourself and ask yourself that are these people human beings? How will someone come up and say that there are over 400 genders, like multiple genders? And biological speaking, we have just 2 genders. Aside from biological speaking, biblically speaking, I'm going to use the word biblically speaking, we have just 2 genders, the male and the female gender. And where is all this narrative coming from? This is a pure left wing who belongs to the LGBTQ community. And honestly speaking, he was just trying to play the victim game. He was trying to act victimized, trying to play the victim game. You know, I've said this countless times. Whenever you want to have a conversation with Charlie, come prepared. Don't just come there and be blabbing and be beating around the bush. Charlie isn't a fool. Charlie knows what he's doing. Even though he didn't go to college, Charlie is grounded intellectually. Charlie spills facts. Charlie doesn't just come out and talk. I don't know the kind of grace that man has. So when you want to have a conversation with Charlie, you have to come prepared. Gather your points, gather your views. Don't come there and disgrace yourself, because honestly speaking, he had no points to say. He was just beating around the bush and trying to play the victim game. Now let's talk about the other guy. The other guy who talked about Asia. Oh my God, you people know. Now the question he asked was, why are Asia more successful? Why are Asia more successful? Now I'm going to answer that question. I've said this countless times on my channel. Asia people are very successful because they choose to be successful. 1990s, back then, when Asia migrated to US, they were one of the poorest citizens back then. But the reason why they are successful is because they did not try to act victimized. They didn't try to act the victim game. They have standards, they are focused people, and they are family oriented. I've said this countless times on my channel, but I'm gonna keep saying it. They never tried to act the victim game. Now let's talk about the black people mentality. The black people always come out there trying to act victimized, that their forefathers has been enslaved 150 years ago, and then they need a reparation, they need to be compensated, this, that, and they keep leveraging on the past that you weren't even there when they enslaved those your forefathers. You were just born, and then you read history and you discovered that they enslaved your forefathers because you're black skin, and then you come and you want to, honestly speaking, a lot of mentality we need to flush out from people, because honestly speaking, most times I ask myself and I question myself, like, which world, what part of the world do these people actually come out from? Asian people are one of the richest people in UX. They are Asian, they are not American, but they're one of the richest. They are even richer than some white people, some Americans, some citizens of that country. But why? Because they didn't, when they came into US, they didn't come having this mentality of being victimized or playing the victim game. They struggled, they worked hard, they are family oriented, they are very focused people, and that is why you see them, they are successful. They are very, very successful and family oriented. You hardly see them having a scattered home or having baby mamas or anyone coming from a broken home. They are family oriented. Like I always say, that charity begins at home. You want to give back to the society. It is what you've learned from home. Charity begins at home. It is the background, the foundation from home that affects the society. I don't know how else I'm gonna say this here on my channel. Asian people are successful because they choose to be successful, and they don't choose to leverage on their past. They strive and they are better, they are doing well. So whenever I hear black people talking about the white privilege and the white supremacy, I just feel like these people don't know what they are doing, because they are just trying to beat around the bush. They're just trying to give excuses. You want to go far in life, excuses wouldn't take you far in life. Instead, it would bring you down. There is nothing like white supremacy in America, and there is nothing like white privilege in America. As a matter of fact, I've studied and I've read, you know, the constitutions of America and the rest of it. I even discovered that Americans spend money. If you come up and tell America that you are an illegal immigrant, you are an illegal migrant over there, they are ready to give you $1,000 to go back to your country. That is how they support illegal immigrants. So they don't practice racism, they don't practice race, they don't practice impartiality, they don't practice inequality. They are very accommodative, right? So, but in as much as they are very accommodative, let's do the right thing. Now, I love the way Charlie answered this guy. Charlie, like I said, Charlie is grounded intellectually, you know. Charlie answered him peacefully and jokingly. You can imagine that virtue he has. The guy coming there ranting and, you know, trying to act the victim game, trying to act, talking just everywhere, but Charlie was calm. He answered him peacefully and he answered him jokingly. I really love this conversation. Like I said, the title is Charlie Kirk destroys SJW students. Most of all these students, I don't know what people are learning in school. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, do also hit the subscribe button, subscribe to our channel, give us a huge thumbs up. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video.